Welcome to our retreat. You made it. You're here despite everything. And if you're here, and if you're still here a week from now, that means that you are already undergoing a transformation of consciousness. I'm saying if you're still here a week from now because it's possible that one or two people could be here for ego reasons, but they wouldn't be able to stand it, not for a whole week. It would become unbearable. Wouldn't be able to stand the stillness, and most of all, you wouldn't be able to stand yourself. Because whoever is still under the control of ego is running always somewhere else, is not at ease with who they are, where they are, and what is. Never at ease. And so they won't be at ease here either. If the pattern inside your head is to be ill at ease, how could you be at ease here? And very quickly you would find reasons to justify to yourself and others your state of not being at ease. If you're looking for excuses for not being at ease in the now, the only place there is, you can always find them wherever you go. You could say, I didn't come here for bad weather. Not knowing that by attaching that label, that thought, you've taken the weather out of the totality, because within the totality, the so-called bad weather, which isn't bad at all, is inseparable from the beauty that surrounds you here. It feeds it. But mind takes it out and separates one little fragment and calls it something, unaware that it is part of the totality. And weather is only a tiny example of that. You take anything that happens to you, any condition that arises, is part of the totality. And when you judge it, call it this or that, and even call it good. Even good weather, why call it anything? It is as it is. If you call it good, then you must have bad weather, because you can't have good weather without bad weather, because otherwise the word good doesn't make sense anymore. And I'm only taking weather as a small example. So these are conditions that arise continuously. If you want to use them, if the mind, the egoic mind, wants to use them for its own purposes, which is to be right, to make something or someone wrong, to enhance your sense of self through resisting and complaining, you can always find excuses, reasons. but they are never the true reasons. There's a beautiful lesson in the Course in Miracles that says, I'm never upset for the reason I think. I am never upset for the reason I think. So that, of course, means to be upset is part of the structure of the egoic mind. You're not in touch with the depth of who you are, the essence of your being. You're not in touch with the depth of the present moment, which is inseparable from the depth of who you are. And that's why you're upset. And then little things happen, and you go, oh. Then that permanent state of being upset comes out. It's just waiting to say, that's why I'm upset. Now I know why I'm so unhappy. There's a bug in my bed. So these are, now I'm not saying the fact that you're here because you are undergoing a transformation of consciousness does not necessarily mean that you are entirely free yet of those mind structures, egoic structures. Because your ability to be rooted within the depths of being, which is the depths of yourself and the depths of the present moment, inseparable. Your ability to dwell within yourself, to rest within your very being. That's the only thing that could redeem you from the state of being upset, unhappy, fearful. That may still, in some of you, occasionally become obscured by mind waves and by the old structures which still have a certain momentum within you. They are collective, human mind structures, been around for a long time. And so you may find yourself occasionally, during this week that we are here together, you may find yourself, or you may already have found yourself in the short time that you have been here, becoming upset with this, that, or the other. And that's nothing personal. You don't need to feel, oh, he caught me. I got him. It's nothing personal. And it is quite possible that from time to time you will find yourself entering the state, I'm using that word that is used in the Course in Miracles, you're upset one way or another, fearful, anxious, complaining, sad, doubting, emotions and mind waves come and say, I feel that because of this, this is doing this because of that. And then perhaps you'll remember, I'm never upset for the reason I think. Oh, and then that's a little pointer. It works like a bell. And so sometimes the bell that I occasionally use is a spiritual alarm clock. It says, step out of your state of being identified with thinking and emotions. Step out and be present and see your thoughts and emotions. That's the spiritual alarm clock, because awakening means to awaken out of the old mental emotional patterns. And so a bell can fulfill that function. That's why in some monasteries they use it quite a lot. Or a stick that the master in a Zen monastery uses to hit you, that can work too. Or a little pointer like, I'm never upset for the reason I think. And then you suddenly, that awakens you out of your identification with the reaction, the mental emotional reaction that was ego, that was me. And then you see it. And then you see the situation isn't really that important. And you see the real reason why you're upset is you've lost touch with yourself. Or another way of putting it, you've lost touch with the present moment. You're not fully aligned internally with what is now. So, and not being aligned internally with whatever form this moment takes means not being in touch with life. Because at this moment, life is taking this form. It's not going to last, forms never last, but at this moment, life is taking this form. To be aligned with the deeper life that is beyond form, you need to be, first of all, aligned with the form that life takes. Instead of rejecting the form and saying, I'm looking for the real life, but not this. So that's a little secret, and that's something to be particularly practiced, to be aware of here. To be aligned, to be in touch with being who you are or what you are beyond the conditioned entity, conditioned by the past, mentally emotional conditioning, a bundle of mental emotional conditioning. That's, to most people, that's who they think they are. They speak out of that, they react out of that, they interact and so on, and are upset a lot of the time out of that. So to be aligned with who you are beyond that, the unconditioned, the being that you are, that which is so hard to put into words. Because words come from this world of forms, and we are now pointing towards the formless dimension in yourself. Not the form, not the physical form, and certainly not the psychological form of me. It's a temporary formation, nothing wrong with it. It's a temporary formation, like a cloud or a snowflake. No human is the same on the planet, and no, they say, when they look at snowflakes through the microscope, not one snowflake is the same as any other snowflake, and yet it only survives for a short time. So to be aligned with who you are, and that's the only thing that can free you from the state of being unhappy, which is structural, not caused ultimately by conditions, because I have met people in the worst of conditions, physical or otherwise, who were absolutely at peace inside. So it's not that. Life. Jesus said, I want you to have life, and I want you to have it more abundantly. True, abundant life, which is not to do with quantities, forms of life, but life itself, to be in touch with the life that you are, which is one with the life that is at the heart of the universe. We could also call it God, if the word had not been misused so much. To enter life, you have to first of all enter, and life, by life we mean here, not a form of life, but the formless, timeless one life of which you are a temporary expression. To know that is the purpose of your being here, that is the purpose of the universe. It wants to know itself through you. To know that one life that you are, a condition for that is not being at odds with the forms of life, the form that life takes at this moment, because that's the only place where life can take form. So to bring an inner alignment to whatever condition arises at this moment, either an external condition or an internal condition. Oh, this is how it is. Doesn't mean you can't take action. If you're in bed, cold, your pajama isn't thick enough, you thought you were coming to a warmer climate. Well, if you arrived this evening, you'll be surprised how hot it is tomorrow morning. That's how it seems to go every day. Of course, you can ask for a blanket. You can say, okay, I need to accept this moment, I'm not going to ask for a blanket. If there's something you can change, that's you take a step. But the action that you take already arises out of an inner alignment, not out of being upset. Because if you run to the reception or wherever you go and you're already upset because the egoic entity used the fact that you were not warm enough in your bed or in your tent, used that as another justification for being upset. Just its normal condition came up again and said, this is why. Of course it's not. It's only a blanket. Or it's only a little cold. And then you go and then they will either tell you, yes, here it is, or they tell you, no, we've run out of blankets. There are too many people here. We don't have that many blankets. And then you go, ah. Now you can see the egoic entity would have another reason for being even more upset. And in that, strengthen its sense of self, which is a total illusion. Its illusory sense of me gets strengthened through the upset. And then it runs and you talk to your next door, you know what? They don't even have enough blankets. And then perhaps at that moment, if you remember, I'm never upset for the reason I think. And of course, I'm never upset for the reason I think means I'm upset because I've lost the present moment. I'm not aligned with the form that this moment takes. That's all. If I were aligned internally, if I said, that's how it is, I've taken action, that didn't work, and then I can ask somebody else about some blankets or find some other means of covering myself, or I find nothing and I'm simply shiver in bed, and that is not that bad either. If you lived in a Zen monastery, you would shiver for years. And they can't complain. Well, they can, not only in the head. But they can't go to the master and complain. And the master says, you idiot, go out! And he's not insulting, he's hoping to break your mind identification. Sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. So you work with whatever arises. That's the raw material for our retreat. Whatever condition arises, external or internal. And so, if you couldn't find just to stay for one moment with that situation, you then spend a night feeling a little cold. And then that's a good opportunity for not mentally labeling it and not even saying, I'm cold. That makes it far worse, and you are feeling upset, and in that you feel good. The ego feels good about that. The strange thing is that the ego, what is bad for the organism, being upset, the body doesn't like it. It interferes with the flow of energy through the body. But to the ego, it's great to be upset. The more upset, the stronger I feel. And so whatever condition arises is as it is at this moment. Nobody could argue with that, except the ego. Whatever arises at this moment is as it is. And if you can recognize that fact, suddenly life becomes very simple. Because it's the simplicity of the present moment, which you can always deal with. It's always really quite simple. Either you take action or you let it be. If action is necessary or possible, action happens. But it doesn't arise anymore out of the ego, which really is looking to enhance itself through the action, to make itself right and somebody else wrong. If action is possible or necessary, it happens. If no action is possible, there's a simple, beautiful acceptance of this moment as it is. And that is the inner alignment with this moment. So confusion leaves you, because confusion is to do with being out of the moment and trying to work something out about your past and your future and how they two hang together. How can I make it work, my life story? And I've got, then you reckon I may have 20 years left and I've got to make it work. And you neglect the primary where life is found, the present moment. So people are trying to make their life work or find their life purpose in terms of future. Where is my life purpose? And then automatically you look to the future for your life purpose. That is your secondary life purpose. The future is your life purpose to do with this temporary form, whatever function this form fulfills. And yes, that also exists. It has its dimension also. But primary is it is your purpose to be internally one with life. And that can only be found in the present moment. And if you miss that because you're looking for some greater purpose than this, you've missed the primary, the very foundation of your life, this moment, and looking for some greater life in some future moment which doesn't exist except as a thought. So we are here to go deeper into this. It is the depths, it's to do with depths. That's why we may briefly touch upon what you do externally with your life. Of course, that is a dimension that is a temporary one. You as form, but it is nothing compared to the importance of being one with who you are in the depths of your being. What purpose could you possibly find if you're not one, if you're looking to the future to find that state of being one with who you are? Who you are, not who you will be. The one with being. Life. God. The now is the portal. But that's the formless dimension. But you cannot reach the formless dimension. I'm saying it again. I will repeat it many times. You cannot be aligned with the formless, eternal life that you are as long as you reject or resist or are at odds with the form that life takes at this moment. Then the form that life takes as your life situation or as a condition that arises becomes a wall, a big obstacle. You have made it into it. It isn't. But you make then whatever situation or condition arises in your life into, and you look upon it as an obstacle, like oh no, this is not what I want. Oh no, something else. Oh no, not this again. That's not supposed to happen. That shouldn't happen. He shouldn't do that. They shouldn't. I shouldn't. Oh no, and so you create. It's that which separates you. There are people who are looking for spiritual enlightenment away from what is here. They're in some, and these are people who love some abstract mental constructs about what enlightenment is, and they study it for years. And then you get divisions. You can divide in 15 this and 25 that and 100 this and oh. So the form that is the condition, the form of this moment that this moment takes, if you internally aligned, it becomes an opening. The worse it is, the wider the opening really. So we work with that these days that we are here, bringing particular alertness, particular attention to whatever arises, outside or inside. Notice your reactions. See if you can be in a state of immediate oneness with the form that life takes at this moment. Immediate inner oneness. Whenever you are in immediate inner oneness, you're already a master, spiritual master. Maybe only for that minute. Maybe the next minute you're no longer at one, but that's fine. You don't need to be a master for the rest of your life. It's enough to be master of the present moment, because that's all there is. Otherwise the mind comes in and says, but I'm not going to be able to sustain this for the... So the mastery of life doesn't mean that you exert total control over everything and everybody. Mastery means to be one with the totality, the total, the cosmos, the Tao, the flow of the universe. It's all one. It's all interconnected. It's the web of the one world, universe, reality. To be one with that's being a master. One. So master is master of the present moment. That's all. And suddenly life is very simple. The present moment is primary in your life. At any moment, and whenever you forget that, you become upset. And so you're not upset for the reason you think. You're upset because you forgot what really matters. That's all. And so it will be interesting to see how many times this week you forget what really matters. Forget yourself. Forget being. Forget the present moment. And the moment you realize that you forgot the present moment, you forgot what really matters, the moment you realize that, you haven't forgotten. It's only when you don't know it, then you've truly forgotten it. Because then you're immersed in the reaction, in the old mental emotional pattern. That means you've truly forgotten, and that means you're truly asleep. Spiritually speaking, you are asleep. And then you need a stronger dose, perhaps, of a stronger alarm clock. But here, of course, there are probably many, because we meet here quite often. And it'll be hard to stay asleep here. If you're jet-lagged and you doze off, that's another matter. But, yeah. What you do here, there is more freedom on this retreat than on some other retreats that you may have attended. If you have been on other retreats, not our retreats, but some other, there are some retreats, meditation retreats that are like boot camps, where you sit for 10 hours a day and you meditate and you walk and you can't even look at anybody. And I'm not saying that's bad. That could be great too. It's just this is different. Forms are different, that's all. That could take you into being too. And here the form is somewhat different. And to some extent it is up to you whether on the external level you want to have a retreat and refrain from speaking, in which case whenever anybody approaches you, you could go. And then they know that you want to be on a silent retreat. I would also like to, at some point, for probably 2 or 3 days, we will endeavor to be silent together for a whole day or 2 days, whatever it may be. But in addition to that, you may want to, those who want it, can be silent all the time. There are some silent tables set aside in the restaurant. Or you can reduce your amount of verbal exchange to a minimum and not engage in a lot of chit-chat. But that's up to you. I'm not saying you should. Or you can engage in normal chit-chat and still be present and observe the chit-chat coming out of your mouth. There it goes. If you are one of those people who want to continue to chit-chat, that's fine. But something that will help you observe the chit-chatting entity, it helps to be, while you chit-chat or listen to somebody else chit-chatting, to be in your body, to feel the aliveness in your body while you sit there and chit-chat. That's not immediately easy, because what tends to happen is the stream of chit-chatting draws all your attention in and the old stories come out. And you can actually see how they pull you along, they pull their consciousness. Your consciousness is pulled into these words, and the words go one strings of words, like coming out of you like some long And there's no end. It's like a magician. And as that happens, can you be in the body? Or at least can you feel your hands, the aliveness in your hands while you talk? You are not really talking, it's the mind is talking. Can you feel the aliveness in your hands? Or when you listen to the other person chit-chatting, can you feel the energy in your body? And while you listen, can you at least listen to the other person without engaging in preparatory chit-chat? What you're going to say next, or some clever remark that's waiting on the tip of your tongue. So to be in the body, and that's useful also for those who decide to have more of a monastic retreat and refrain from speaking altogether, because that doesn't help you if that thing up here is continuously busy, and perhaps even more busy than it would be if you were talking to people normally. Because it gets so frustrated, not being able to talk. And then it talks even more in the head. And so being in the body is important no matter whether you're having a social retreat or a monastic retreat. It's being rooted here means some of the attention goes away from, the mind hasn't got all that much attention anymore. The attention is in the body. And it's beautiful to rest, to have attention in here while you do things, especially while you listen to others, or if you are having a silent retreat and you're sitting at a silent table, you can hear other people talking. And can you be the silent listener while others are talking? Or is somebody else talking in you and saying, look at these people, they're supposed to be on a spiritual retreat and they're talking, not me. Ego can use all kinds of disguises and forms, and when you think you got rid of ego in one form, it appears in another. So it's essential to watch, be there, watch, be alert. So it's up to you then what kind of a retreat you want to have. But these, we meet here, that's a given. Observe doubts that come into your mind, because mind is doubt. If it's not doubt, it's some kind of obsession or so-called conviction. It's probably worse than doubt. I mean, this absolute conviction that this is how it is. And I've had it for 20 years, and this is how it is. Or it goes, well, what if, but on the other hand, I shouldn't have come here, should I? Yes, no. Oh, that reminds me of the presidential there were these two seem to embody, they say one was going from one to the other, and the other has an absolute conviction. Two forms of mind that the mind can take. So doubt may come in that perhaps you shouldn't have come here. Often people tell me that on the second or third day they start thinking of leaving. The mind gets suddenly very active and says, nothing is happening here. And the same people often tell me, then they haven't left, but then they tell me towards the end of the retreat, the mind comes in and absolutely says, I don't want to leave here. So you can observe that also. That's a wonderful thing, to be there as the observer of your mind, what it does, what it says, its reactions, because you're also observing the ego. Ego is no more than mind, mental, emotional forms that you have identified with, that carry a sense of self. That's all. Being in the body, I recommend it tonight. When you go to bed, if you're traveling with a friend or partner, once you lie down, at least then, stop talking. And go into sleep lying flat on your back first, and enter the inner energy field of your body. And of course you will still listen, and you will listen much more acutely to the noises, the night insects, their beautiful sounds. And you will be able to listen to all that, because as you enter the body, the mind, the mental noise will gradually calm down or dissolve completely. And only then can you truly listen. We'll be talking about that more. So you lie on your back, hands either on your legs or by your side, and you lie in the energy field of your body. And so the compulsive thinking subsides. The thinking entity subsides. And there's simply spacious aliveness. And go to sleep from there. Don't go to sleep from mental noise. You're lucky here that there's no television, so you can't watch the latest talk show or whatever it is. There's no magazines, at least I haven't seen any. If you brought them, put them away. Newspapers, put them away. Because these are addictive things to the mind, which is always searching for more stimulus, more of this to get its teeth into. And so you may find, not only tonight, but also in the next few days, certain symptoms of withdrawal symptoms. Because the mind is addictive. Everybody's mind is an addict. And so even if you're not addicted to drugs, it's still an addict. And if you can't think, even if you don't watch TV and read papers ever, the mind is still addicted, and its main addiction is thinking. I've got to think. But there's nothing to think about. And you're in bed in this beautiful place. What is there to think about? What could you add to this moment by thinking about some other moment? You can only obscure the moment by thinking about something else. So this is another aspect. We won't go into this evening. It's transcending having to think. And if you achieve nothing else in your incarnation here, your life is fulfilled. Consciousness has flowered. No matter whether the world tells you that you are important or not, consciousness has flowered. And if you wake up in the middle of the night, and you can, soon after you wake up, usually the mind starts saying something, It'll be about past or future or complaining or whatever. And then simply go back into the body, lie back, go into the, use it, don't say, oh, I should be asleep. No, you're not asleep. Or say, I can't sleep, I'm going to be tired, I'm going to fall asleep tomorrow in the session. Well, you don't know what you're going to fall asleep. You're not asleep? No, that's all you know. And that is what you are internally aligned with. I'm not asleep. Okay. And then you go into the body. And it's beautiful not being asleep in the body. You're in the body then. And then not being asleep is not a problem. In fact, it's very enjoyable. And say, oh, this is good. Little fragments of thoughts may come in. This is good. It feels good. Alive. And then you listen, subtle noises. Beautiful. And you feel an intense aliveness within. And then perhaps at some point you will go back to sleep. And in the morning, fortunately there's no radio here to switch on. You can't listen to the news, don't know what's going on. It's always the same anyway. I listen to it too, but I know it's always the same. Just not in the morning though. The first, keep that. It's that freshness of the first. As you wake up, that freshness, keep it fresh, and instead of going immediately into thinking, go back into the body before you get up. Just 5 or 10 minutes, and then you get up. That's a good start. It was a good end to the day, and it's a good start to the next day. So that you don't go into sleep from thought, and you do not go from sleep immediately into thought. You have a space. And then remember when you interact with people, be in the body as much as you can while you interact, so that you feel, and if you can't be in the body, feel just the hands, be there in here while you listen, if you can't feel the whole body. So that is important, no matter whether you are quiet or whether you talk on the retreat. I will address this again when we have our silent days. Something else that you may want to do? There's one sense that's a little bit neglected. The primary senses for human beings are visual and auditory. Smelling. At different times of the day, the air smells different here. And so you can take, also as you get up, you put your head out of the window or the door, or you walk out of here, or you walk out of the restaurant. Always smell the air and see the fragrance. Smell that. Always subtly different. But there's more here than the smell. Notice that in the moment of smelling the air, there's no thought. Because if you were thinking, you couldn't smell it. In the moment of smelling the air, there's no thought and there's an intense sense of aliveness. Then afterwards, after that smell, perhaps thought comes in. And then you notice that. But a great thing is if you can notice, and that perhaps you've been doing for years, perhaps if you're not totally identified with the mental noise, you have occasionally, when you were out in nature, you've taken a deep breath and said, this is good. But you didn't say this is good while you were smelling, it came afterwards. While you are conscious of that, there's no thought. And there's more to it than that, but I'll leave it at that right now. So use that. Senses will become very important this week as we practice presence. Senses will become sharpened as more awareness flows into all the senses. We'll address that tomorrow. But we already have enough for tonight and the night and tomorrow morning. Remember, the slightest upset, for whatever reason, I'm never upset for the reason I think, I lost the present moment. I lost the internal alignment with the present moment. And at that moment of realization, the possibility of being aligned with the present moment is there. It is your decision or your choice. Do I want to continue being out of alignment and feel upset? And then perhaps the ego says, oh yeah, I'd love to feel even more upset. Now you see, it's a funny question, because when you make it conscious, you can see that it's insane. And so the pattern will collapse when you make it conscious, and if you ask yourself, is this what I want? Do I want to continue to be upset about this, or am I enjoying feeling upset about this? Or is it possible to, now that I've realized I'm out of alignment, I can choose to say yes to what is and be in alignment with what is. It's your choice then. Choice comes in at that moment. The universe chooses through you to be conscious. And if your mind said, oh, I'd love to carry on being upset, you would start laughing. It doesn't work anymore. Because you've made it conscious. No matter how hard you try, you can't be upset anymore. That's no fun anymore, says the ego. Life isn't fun anymore. Notice your left leg is moving. That's an emotion. Be aware of it. I'm not saying stop it, just watch it. And you're not the only one. I always see people whose leg or arm moves slightly. It is an emotion in the body. All you need to do is be conscious of it, and suddenly it'll stop. It's something that is, you're not fully in here yet. There's something. Be conscious, watch it. Oh, and then it stops by itself. If your attention is in here, it stops. If your attention is in here, the body goes. Get in here. Be in here. Your consciousness has to go in here. And then the body becomes a portal. You go, and eventually you transcend body, but you go in here. It's essential to leave that, to get out of that while you're here. Not to become unconscious, but to transcend that, the thinker. And then there's not only the thinker, there's the emotional field that accompanies the thinker. That's been there for years. There's the pain body that's been there, not just your pain body, humanity's pain body that's been there for years. So there's the thinker in alliance with the pain body. They together form the ego. The emotional field, old emotion, and that. And that feeds that, and the emotion feeds the thinker, and the thinker feeds the emotion. And so consciousness, bring consciousness in and watch. If there's a movement in here, simply watch that. Internally, not externally, internally. Feel it. Now, one more thing. There is something in perhaps everyone, and that is the emotional, mental emotional entity that is simply a form that consciousness has taken that you confuse with who you are. And that egoic entity does not want to be here. It may occasionally arise as you sit here and manifest either as intense thought movement in the head, you're not listening to a word anymore that's being said here, intense thought movement, whatever it is, I don't know what about, could be anything, past, future, dreamland, anything, fantasy, or what your problems, or your life, or what somebody did to you, what you're going to do to them, or what you should have said and didn't say, whatever. It can, as you sit here, there can be a reaction. It can be very intense in the head, or in the body as an emotion, so much so that you just can't stand it being here anymore. And then sometimes I can see people, they start looking around when it happens. And some look for the door. And again, just when it happens, you can watch that. I may, without wanting to offend you, if I occasionally see somebody who is engaged in it, I might point it out. So there's nothing personal about thoughts or emotions. That takes a lot of steam out of my story. And if you cannot stand it here, if the impulse comes to leave, to go home, I'll just recommend one thing. Do not immediately obey the impulse, but watch the impulse to go, wanting to go home. Allow it to be there, watch it. You may watch it and it may subside, and an hour later you may find you love it. Or it may well be that the impulse comes continuously or doesn't go away. And then you may find yourself, you have no choice, you cannot stop yourself, you have to go. Then if you have to go, it is not wrong to leave here. You are not wrong if you leave here. It just means consciousness will arise in some other way in you or through you. Somewhere else, in another situation, perhaps while you're traveling home, or when you arrive home, or 50 years later when you're on your deathbed. We don't know. it is not wrong. Although those who do leave, the egoic mind will attempt to make everybody else wrong. That's normal. And that's not personal either. And when it happens, you can watch that in yourself. All these people, I'm not going to stay here. Okay, they're all wrong and I'm right. Yes, that's how it is. It's okay. The spiritual alarm clock, but much nicer than any alarm clock. Thank you.